required. Then it comes to two things. Do you use what is already provided? Correct. So do you take a look at agents that are already created, you use them, or you start building your own agents? So when you build your own agents, this is where it comes in. So Copilot Studio is right down the chain of this decision tree. When you do realize that, yes, you do have a use case for use of AI agent, you either say, do I use what's already there, so I buy, or I go and build one. Of course, the more technical discussion around that would be, okay, sure, you want to build your agent, but is there a single agent or multi-agent scenarios? But you already gone through the decision tree and you've already decided that you're going to use either a pro code way of writing the agent, or you're going to use no code, low code. All right. So it means that that process you've already gone through already. So I'm not going to go through that today, because today we purely want to focus on building an agent with low code, no code using Copilot Studio. So what is an agent, correct? An agent literally does this. It's just a piece of software. It literally is a piece of software that includes a function, uses a generative AI model, which is a GPT, for example, or a large language model. Correct. It's given instructions. So this instruction literally control the orchestration of the agent. And of course, it has access to tools. Tools means that it can go and get some data. It can remember the previous conversations you had, or it can take actions. You will provide inputs, or it could be a system event that happens, so the agent is autonomous, or it could be a prompt that you write, correct? So you could follow up with that. And eventually, of course, it gives you the result. I always like to explain how this look like. So maybe I'll just do this with MS Paint. It's easier to understand what an AI agent is all about. An AI agent has a very important component called the orchestration. The orchestration, I talked about this yesterday as well. This is literally the middle person of the whole AI agent. This is your AI agent, correct? Of course, the AI agent has access to LLMs, correct? Has access to tools, correct? Has access to tools, has access to, oops, sorry, let me just go down here, correct? Has access to memory. It remembers what you previously said, correct? Has access to knowledge. This is literally information. And not only that, has access to other AI agents. How cool is that, correct? It can actually connect to other AI agents if it needs to. And then, of course, you also have MCP servers, MCP client, which then allow you to connect to one or more MCP servers. So you would have something like this. For example, in my case, I have two clients. So two clients means I connect the two MCP server like that. This is literally what the agent is all about, correct? So MCP server, and you can see that I have another one here, MCP server. So what does the MCP server have? An MCP server would have many, many things, but just to clarify, it has tools you can use. It has prompts that you can fire, which is templated prompts. It literally has knowledge that you can use, correct? This is all going to be stuff that is available in typically any MCP server, but there's a lot more functionality to an MCP server. Maybe we'll have another session on that one. So when you send a request in, the request always goes to the orchestration. The orchestration then, so if I was to draw this flow, it looks something like this. So this comes in, it goes to the LLM. The LLM specifies that, okay, this is what the plan is all about. So they say this is what the plan is. And then the orchestrator will go and get all the things that are needed by the plan, correct? These are all then received, correct? The response is given back to the LLM. The LLM then generates a response. Oops, sorry, here. Is given back to the LLM, correct? The LLM then generates a response, which in this case, I'll draw that in black in color, correct? And the response eventually then goes back to you of the person who initially requested the send in the prompt, correct? So there's a lot of, all these tools get used. But of course, the brains behind it is this. but the orchestrator is the middle person between the LLM and all the other things, correct? So the LLM might see a prompt come in and say, oh, this guy needs to retrieve data from a HR database. So the orchestrator will then say, well, we do have an MCP server for HR database or the company, or we do have access to the HR. But because it's a SQL server, we need another tool to write the SQL command. So the SQL command is written by one tool, and then of course the access is via maybe a SQL connector, or maybe using an MCP server which has access to the SQL, and then those two information comes back to the orchestrator. Orchestrator gives back to the LM. LM then finally composes the final answer, correct? The response, and that then goes back to you. So this orchestration part is very important. So when we say that you are going to write an instruction here, this literally controls the orchestration part. It literally tells the AI agent to some extent what you want the orchestration to do. That's a really powerful component of that. Okay, cool. That's very important. Okay, cool. So let's go back and take a look at what does this entire training cover. So this training, which is the PL-770, is literally an end-to-end guide on creating a AI agent using a low-code option. Okay, because it's a PL-7008, that means it involves using Power Platform components. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, so I kind of showed you why agents are required. So agents are usually a very powerful way of automating work within an organization, which is document heavy, process heavy, and so on and so forth. Which usually is a very repeatable task and take people a lot of time to get that process done, correct? And of course, there are scenarios where you don't need an agent. You most probably need another kind of scenario for it, correct? Now, so the tool that we use is Copilot Studio, and I'll just walk through that with you here. So here's my Copilot Studio. Now, the first thing that you do when you're working with a Copilot Studio is to follow a proper application lifecycle management, correct? So let me see here. So I go into my Power Platform admin. I'm going to create a new environment, correct? So I'm going to go ahead. So you can see I do have other environments I created before. This is a WhatsApp testing because I'm setting up my WhatsApp business account so my agent can run in WhatsApp and you can interact with that agent there, correct? So let's say, for example, we're going to set up a new environment. So let's say we'll use a sandbox version. Let's go here. Let's see, correct? And you can see that it's got a couple of default settings here, correct? I want to add a dataverse. So every environment can have its own dataverse, correct? And you notice that I can group them into an environment group if I want to, correct? So here I'm going to go ahead and say that this is based out of United States. You can see the name pops up, correct? So this usually you will have to fill this up. You can also choose a developer version of the platform. Developer version most probably will give you certain things that are not available within the sandbox and vice versa. You can also create a production environment, correct? And you notice with production environment, again, I can also choose an option to show me all the new features that I want to use, and again, add Dataverse. In my case, I'm going to use a sandbox edition, correct? And I'm going to add the future features, and I want my Dataverse. Here we go. Next is to choose currency and jobs done. If I go back, I can make sure that I'm in United States and done. Okay, so I'm going to spin this up first. Okay, so of course, if you want everybody to access it, just choose none. Means everybody has access to this one. Of course, initially when you're developing, the only people who have access is whoever that have access to the environment. So it could be a development environment, and authentication usually is not enabled because you're building stuff. And then eventually when you have done your first MCP version, the minimal version of the product, maybe there's still no authentication, but once you go into a production level development, you most probably put that on. And now you can see that I've got my environment ready, correct? So that is the one here. It says ready. So I can actually go to Copilot, and you can see under Copilot, I would be able to see that new environment that I created. So give it a minute. Here we are. So I'm in Copilot Studio, copilotstudio.microsoft.com. Log in with your work account, and I'll show you that environment we created is right here. So we're going to click on it, and here we are. Okay. Give it a minute. Okay, welcome to Copilot Studio. It says next, next, and next. I just want to go through that. The best way to get started is to use an agent to build an agent. So I'm going to use a Copilot to build an agent. So I could just go here and say, look, create an agent to help employees with expense claim. I could just do that. I'm going to click send. And the Copilot in Copilot Studio is going to start building that agent for me, correct? Let's give it a minute. It's most probably the easiest way to get started. But you notice I didn't provision any tool. I didn't add a lot of instruction, but I did use a natural language to start out the process. Here we go. So you can see the agent is created. It even gave a name on its own. You can see that gave a description, and here is the instruction. Look at that. You see? Pretty cool, right? It's got all these instruction added. I didn't do this. All I said was I want to create an agent to help with expense, and it's got even some interaction example, correct? How cool is that? Of course, eventually I would need to provide some knowledge, and you can see that it's got some tool example here that I could use. Some of them are duplicated. You have triggers to make it autonomous. I have agents to make it a multi-agent scenario. Now, if I want to control the orchestration to some extent, I can go ahead and create my own topics, which are like chatbot workflows, chatbot conversation flows. I can create those in here, correct? So let's see, that's good enough. Let me go into the edit part. All right, so I'm going to go and edit the icon. Can you see this icon here? I can go ahead and change that, correct? Let me see. Oh, that it already given me that icon, correct? Change the instructions so your agent maintains a friendly and professional tone. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to, this is the, oh, I'm going to suppose to add this part, sorry. I'm going to scroll down here. Can you see here? Correct. So I could actually add this. I could go right down here and say, hey, maintain a friendly and professional tone. Can you see that? I'm actually typing that text in there to say you should try to maintain a friendly and professional tone. I'm just adding the text at the bottom. Correct? Correct. And one more thing that I want to add is avoid providing any text advice. Correct. So if you look down here, okay, I'm going to go right here, follow up and closing. I could say do not provide any, avoid providing any text advice. I'm just controlling a certain part of the orchestration, correct? And I'm going to go ahead and save this. Job done, correct? And one thing you notice is if you go down here, there's a web search. What does that mean? It means that if you disable the web search, it means that the agent is not going to have access to the internet or using Bing search. So the only information that's it's going to respond to you with would be its own training data and whatever knowledge that you add here, correct? So I'm going to go ahead and disable this, correct? I'm going to disable the web search, correct? So we're going to turn that off. And we're going to go ahead and we're done, correct? So at the moment, you can see that there's a test pane on the right side. I can already start testing it right away. So I'm going to go, hello, let's go and test it out. And there you go, correct? And you can see it's showing me on the right side what is the process that's going through. So you can see it matched one of the topic. When I say hello, it actually matched one of the topics which is a conversation flow. And it knows that I was trying to do a greeting and he came back and said, correct? You can see that it even shows you what it's thinking. You can hide that part if you don't want to, correct? So he says, hello, how can I help you today, correct? Now I'm going to go ahead and paste this question. Who should I contact about submitting an expense? You notice I disable the web search. It's got no knowledge at all to provide. It's going to come up with an answer by itself, which is going to be a very generic answer, correct? So look, it's going to give me a very generic answer. Why generic answer? Because it's coming from its own training data, correct? So you say generally, when you have an expense claim, you would have to go through this process cycle, correct? And if you look at the instruction that we had earlier, we say that when you're going to provide claims, you need to have all these information when you submit claims. And you can see it's actually doing just that now, correct? So it's following that instruction as what we specify, correct? Then I'm going to go ask another question. I'll say, hey, what is the expense limit for hotel stay? You notice that in my instruction, there's nothing like that. Okay, and there's no knowledge I provided which shows that there is a certain limit or policy for hotel stay, but it's going to again come back with a generic answer, correct? Let's take a look. It's thinking, doesn't have the information, correct? You can see that it says the search did not return any results. So there's no knowledge at all. So it gives me a generic answer. It says, sorry, I wasn't able to find the specific limit, but usually this is how you decide what the limit, which is a very generic answer, correct? Okay, pretty cool, right? Now, I mentioned earlier that when you are working with agent, you have something called topics. What are topics? They're just conversation flow, correct? So every time you say something, the agent picks up one of these topics and matches it. Can I create an agent without creating the topic? Of course you can, but you can also define what those topics are. So usually there are system topics which are pre-created, such as this, correct? And you can see there's also custom topics that you can create, correct? I'm going to show you example of the custom topic called greeting. Here's a greeting, correct? So the greeting topic looks like this. So earlier, you can see that when I say the word hello, this is the trigger. So this topic was triggered because I said hello, correct? And then, of course, it came back and said that to me, and then the topic ended. You saw this exactly what happened earlier, correct? I can customize this if I want to, correct? So it can be triggered by any one of those words. So if I go back to the topics again, let's go back to the topics. Now, sometimes there's some pretty cool topics called conversational boost. Conversational boost means that if the agent doesn't understand what you said, we can add some additional knowledge to try to get the agent to understand what is the intent of the user. Now, if we still can't get that done, we can do a fallback. One of the things that you do in a fallback is you escalate to a human being. That's pretty cool, correct? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you that I can add a topic, and this looks so cool here. Look. I'm going to go add a topic, and I know what, I'm going to use a Copilot to help me add the topic, which is going to be add from description. So I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to give the topic a name. So let's give that topic that's hold on, create a topic, add from description. Okay, in the add from description, name the topic. Okay, so I'm going to give that name first. Here we go. This is the name. Okay, and but the flow of it, I'm going to use Copilot, correct? So I'm going to go ahead and give this information. I say when the user asks who to contact about explains claim, tell them to send the email to finance@contoso.com. Correct? And I'm going to go ahead and create this. This is my topic now. Okay. Give it a minute. Because I'm creating this topic for myself. There you go. The topic has been created. Correct? You can see that the trigger. So this topic will be selected when this trigger gets hit. And this trigger means it says when somebody says, who do I contact about expenses? Correct? Or anything related to that, correct? And you can see this is the reply that's going to go there. All right, we're going to save this topic. All right, so this topic is safe. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how that topic gets triggered. Look, I'm going to come back here. Okay, and I'm going to type the exact word. Who should I contact about submitting an expense claim? So when I click on that, because I use that words, which was the trigger for that specific topic, and you will see that that topic got triggered. Can you see? This is the topic got triggered, and right down here you can see that it's thinking. Give it a minute, and you can see up here, there you go. The expense claim, please send email to finance. So I can control a certain amount of conversation flow if I want to. Now, of course, the game changer would be if you add knowledge, correct? If you add knowledge source. I'm going to go download a file. Just give me a minute. I'm going to go get a file from GitHub. And this is a policy document, okay? Give it a minute. It says we're fetching the file. Give it one moment. Not sure why it's taking too long. Retrieving the file. Okay, there you go. That's the file. So at the top here, I do have a download button. So this is actually company policy of expenses. This is going to be a game changer, correct? Because when the agent has access to this, now you could ask questions, very specific question. How much can I claim for food? How much is my maximum minimum hotel flight and blah, 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 whatever, correct? This is the company's access policy. So I'm going to save this file. You can see the file is saved there already. I downloaded that. It seems like this file existed before. Maybe I'd done a demo before. Okay, let's close that and let's go back to the AI agent. And you can see right here, I have a knowledge, correct? So we're going to add knowledge now. We're going to go here. I'm going to upload a file and I'm going to go to download and I'm going to look for expense policy. Not sure why that file, but I'm going to go ahead and see whether I can rename that file. I don't like that one in there. It says the file already exists, correct? Oh, but I don't seem to find it. The expenses policy. Okay, why don't we just use this one, okay? There you go. And I'm going to add to agent, correct? There you go. So this file is being uploaded now, okay, as a knowledge. And you will see that the file is being processed. You can see that it shows in progress at the moment. Can you see that part there? Where's my browser? Where's my knowledge? There you go. You can see that the in progress is happening at the moment here because it's picking up the file, building an index on it, so we can eventually use that file, correct? So give it a moment while the in progress is running, correct? It will index the file. This can take anything between a couple of minutes to many minutes, right? So I most probably want to get this done in about the next 10 minutes, okay? Now, while this is happening, why don't we go to the settings? Why don't we go hop on to the settings here? You can see this page, settings. I'm going to click on that. And under settings, you get to see one very important component called authentication, correct? You can see if you go under authentication, you will see the various authentication options that are there. All right. So for training or building something that you're building a prototype or proof of concept, you're most probably going to turn on authentication anyway, correct? So I'm going to turn on this authentication for now, correct? You can see authentication setting has been saved. And then we're going to go to channels. And you can see all these are the channels that I can publish this agent to. Let me go back into the overview and see whether the knowledge is done. Looks like it's still in progress. If you go to knowledge, you can see that it's still being progressed. It's still, the index is still being built. So you will still take a couple of more minutes to get this done. But what I want to show you is when you have demo, one of the cool thing that you can do is you can preview the agent integrated to a website called a demo website. How cool is that, correct? So when that is done, you can go ahead and click on that, and it will create a demo web page for you, and you'll be able to go ahead and see that being shown in the demo website. I'm not going to click on that now. Correct. When I go back and see whether the file has been indexed, it's still in progress because I want to test it out with the knowledge, and you will see that I didn't configure any work communication communication flow or conversation flow, but it's going to understand that there is knowledge and it's going to make that decision. So remember, what's going to happen is the prompt goes into my the orchestrator. Orchestrator knows that there's knowledge and there's web access, which we've turned off, so that's not there. It knows there's a bunch of topics and so on and so forth, correct? So once the agent has figured out that, hey, this is what the user wants, and based on what is available to the agent, it's going to go ahead and start using those things. And one of them will be the knowledge part, correct? Okay. So let me just go back to the channel just to show you that demo website for now. Let me click on demo website, and I'm going to go ahead. I think I need to publish this first before we can use it. I'm going to go ahead and publish. Give it a minute. And it does give me a warning here, a quick notification that I didn't turn on authentication. That's fine. It's just doing some checks for me. So it's creating a demo website. That's pretty cool. And because it will then use that demo website as a platform, like a website, where this agent is integrated to that, and there's an interface to it, which is of course the chat interface of this website, correct? So we're doing this for the first time, so it might take a bit longer, so don't worry about it. Okay. There you go. That's done. Now I can go to the demo website and notice that you can actually put a welcome message, correct? So I'm going to add a welcome message here. The welcome message is, ask me about expense claim. What about conversation starters? Maybe you want to give some examples of prompts, right? So some of these are the prompt examples for this website. I'm going to go ahead and open the demo website. And this is how it looks like. And it's so cool, right? You can see these are the three things I showed earlier. And right here, you can see this expense claim. How cool is that, correct? So I can say hello, and you can see that's what happens, correct? I can always start over. Okay, you can see Karen is, there you go. It has reached its usage limit. Please try again. I think it's still provisioning in the background, so you got to wait for a while for this. Yeah, it's still not doing that yet. This agent is currently unavailable. It has reached its usage limit. That's interesting because I did log in. So if you go back here and you do a quick search, Copilot Studio, and you do this, here we go, correct? This agent is currently available, correct? Cost, Copilot enforces default rate and usage constraint to protect agents against unexpected usage surge. Correct. So usually, like I said, I think maybe I've been using a lot of this on my own. So when I do a demo using my work account, so that could be a problem, correct? Anyway, we can always come back to this later. Sometime when you provision something very new, it doesn't immediately give you all that access, correct? So I've saved it already. Now I'm going to open this one more time and see if this works, correct? Yeah, so it's still showing me the same, no problem. Okay, so let's go back here again, close this, and we're going to close this one here. We're going to go to knowledge and see whether that page, it's already ready. So because it's ready, I can go ahead and start doing some tests, correct? We're going to publish this one more time. We're going to publish this one more time. I don't need to publish if I want to test it in the test pane, but I'm going to do that in the test pane anyway. You notice earlier I asked about the hotel's limit. What's the expense limit for hotel stay, correct? And you notice now it'll be able to give me a specific answer. Why? Because it has the access to the policy. Previously, you can see that. Look at that. It actually went to use the policy. Look, right? So that is where the orchestrator is involved with the LLM. LLM decides on what the intent is based on what is available. We're going to be able to grab that info, correct? You can see the rationale around the decision that is made by the AI agent, correct? And I think it'll take a while for you to show that as well. So right down here, correct? So close this thinking part. You can see it gives me a very specific answer. It said, this is what your company policy is. How cool is that, correct? So let's try other questions. I'm going to ask a question on what about flights? Okay. It does tell you that it did make a reference to this document while you were asking that question, correct? So now I'm asking about flights, and he says it's $500 per trip. I'm also going to ask on what is the expense claim? What are the guidelines? What guidelines are there for expense claim? There you go, is $100 per event. And then what is the expense claim, expense limit for meals? And that's your expense limit for this. All right. Pretty cool, right? So now he comes back and say that is $50 per day expense limit. Or in all of this scenario, it did went to use this part here, correct? And who do I contact? Who do I contact to submit claims? And it's gonna come back and give me the same person. Okay, look, now you see the topic got kicked in. You saw that the policy is not in effect anymore. Now it's picking up the topic. The topic is the one that information that you need to send this to finance.contoso. All right. So it's pretty cool. We get to see the whole thing functioning end to end. A very, very simple example of a Copilot that's created from scratch, correct? I showed you the environment, so we'll cover that in detail if you do the training. I showed you how to create an agent in Copilot Studio, correct? And of course, you notice I created that agent by using the Copilot in Copilot Studio. In Copilot Studio, there is a Copilot that you can use to interact with it, correct? What I did is I added knowledge, but my knowledge was just a file. I can add variety of knowledge, correct? Including a data verse, for example, correct? And that big Dataverse is most probably Microsoft is taking a lot of effort in making Dataverse to become a de facto or very valuable primary data source or knowledge source for AI agents, correct? As of updates of last year, there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening, correct? With Dataverse being the choice of knowledge. You can do a quick search. I'll show you Dataverse as choice of AI agent knowledge, correct? So a lot of application that you build around it. So you can see add database tables as knowledge source, correct? So it's pretty cool. So you can actually take your data that's in the back end of an application that you build or maybe a website, and that same database suddenly now becomes something that you can use within a AI agent, correct? Update Microsoft Build. I think it was in Microsoft Build. Yeah, there you go. Correct. So this was the blog that was released in the middle of last year. Dataverse to Build, the agent platform powering the future of agentic AI. So Dataverse is no longer just a data source that we use in Power Platform in Dynamics. It's going to be a primary thing that you eventually use. That's pretty cool thing. So I'm actually sharing this link with you. Gives you a pretty good idea of what that conversation should be like. Okay. So let's go back into home again, and we've updated your latest version. You can see that GPT-5 is now available. So I actually chose United States as a region. So GPT-5 is currently what's available, correct? Multi-agent orchestration. Remember I said orchestration? That is for one agent, but you can also do it for multi-agent, correct? And look, You can also use, say, SharePoint metadata filter to make the knowledge retrieval even better, correct? Okay. That's pretty cool. Of course, you also get to see what the new features are. That's actually a setting here. See what's new. I think that under general settings, there should be a setting option, and you can decide that whether you want to see all features. You can also go to the admin, pick up the environment that you created. That's a Copilot part about enabling preview features if you want to. And you can have that feature enabled for you if you want to, correct? And there you go. Correct. Release wave opt-in has moved. Deployment schedule, see what's new. So I can go here. If you click on this, it'll tell you where do you turn this on right now, correct? Check the release plan to see what kind of plan you are in, and you get all these updates. Here we go. Pretty cool, correct? So all these new stuff that gets released, you're going to be able to see them and show up in Copilot. So this is the first part, correct? Quickly trying to build a AI agent with Copilot Studio. The second part, of course, is where we start looking at uh, using things like Dataverse and Power Platform. So Dataverse is going to be the first Power Platform component that we integrate, correct? And that means that we get to integrate functionality that's available within an application that you build, correct? So you saw earlier, one of the things that I did was topics. I created a very simple topic, and the topic will respond to you. Every topic has a trigger. So this is one thing that we cover in the training. We go into details with this topic. Can I create a topic from Copilot? Yes, I can. That's what I did earlier, right? I put in the description. It then generated the topic. I can even create more complex topic if I want to. So I'm going to go back to agent here. This is my agent. I can show you that I can go to topic, and I can create really complex ones, correct? So I'm going to go here, add a topic, all right? Generate expense claim. Expense claim here. So what I'm going to do is let the user ask the user for all the expense claim details. Correct. Example: the type of claim, the location, the location, the location, the location, correct, the amount, etc. And you will then generate a text file which the user can use to upload to the claim system, correct? I'm just going to write something like this, and you will see that it's going to generate a lengthy topic, which I can eventually use. Here we go. And there you are, correct? You can see that this is a lot bigger topic, okay? There you go. All right. So you can see that it says this is what's going to happen. There's a trigger. And look, we're asking the question, what kind of expense claim do you want? And then we say where did the expense occur? Correct. What is the amount? Blah, blah, blah. And then thank you for providing all these expenses. So this is just to retrieve that information, correct? And then what are the things I need to do? I need to go to create a tool which will then be able to use. So the tool that I'm going to use, add a tool, I need something called let's go here. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I could use a few things. So computer use is available in the US. This is pretty cool. So that is why I chose United States, and this is available. You can create a prompt. In the prompt, you can define a template on how you want that output to be delivered. That is so cool, correct? So one of the cool thing that you can do is you can deliver an output based on a certain format, and then you can specify what kind of output you want. In this case, you can see I want the text output, and that person can then download. That's one way. There are tools that you can use which will generate that for you. Let me see if I can't remember what that tool is called. There's the name of the tool, I just don't remember. Which will generate the text file for me, correct? So generator, I think generator. Let me see if I can find generator. Hopefully I can see it. Give it a minute. And that should pop up somewhere. Look, I even have a barcode generator if I want to. It's pretty cool. I can literally do anything, correct? And here we go. There's a code generator. If I don't have any, I can always go and find that file. I can go and find that tool, but usually the MCP server will be able to tell me where that tool is. In my case, I'm going to, here we go, correct? Text generation. I could generate a text file. I could generate a PDF if I want to. There's literally millions of tools you can use, correct? There you go. I can even write to SharePoint. And if you look at PDF, I can also generate a PDF. But my best way of doing that is usually to use, my best way to do that is to use a prompt, correct? And within the prompt, I can suggest the format that I want. All right. So that's an example of me creating a little bit more complex topic. And you can see that all that created from scratch, correct? And you can see that when we created that topic earlier, you can see that I can also make changes to this with a Copilot. So even though I created this with Copilot, I can use Copilot again. I can ask this Copilot to edit the topic if I want to. And that's a pretty cool thing to do, right? So we cover a lot of topic scenarios, and each we go through in detail what topics are, what are the different kind of topic components, including a little bit of MCP, and then we do some practice labs as well on working with topics and so on and so forth. It's a really good training. The hands-on labs are very pretty detailed. It's like a 4-hour hands-on lab to cover literally every aspect of creation of this, correct? Now, another thing that you'll notice is when you work with topics, there's a lot of input that's coming from the user. So we'll start using things like variables. And then, of course, there are certain things that the user might say in their prompt, which are predefined entities that we can automatically pick up, such as name of a city, a date, a country, and a whole bunch of other things, correct? So those are directly applicable. I'll show you where they are. So if I go back to my topic again, and you notice right here, we ask a question, correct? So when we ask a question, we offer this user multiple choices. When the user chose one of them, it went into a variable. This is my variable name. So when I click on it, you can see the variable name shows up. This is the claim type, correct? And I can, of course, here I ask a question, where did this expense a claim? So instead of just copying a string, I'm looking for a city. And that city is an entity, and that city then goes into a location, correct? Because if I just take text, that most probably can, well, yeah, it's just a string, but it's better that if we can identify what the person says a city, correct? I can give other choices if I want to. When somebody says a number, it's a currency value, it's a number that's also an entity. So these are where entities and variables are used. And that is discussed in this module, correct? You might say, look, some of these entities are not applicable to my scenario. So if you go to settings, you go into entities, you will see these are the pre-built entities, correct? You can also say, I want to add my own entity. You can create your own custom entity if you want. And that's pretty cool. So you get to see that in that module as well. Okay, so once you've done the entities part, the next part, of course, is to start integrating with other components of that's available within Copilot Studio, correct? So that main thing, the first thing that we want to talk about is agent flows. What is agent flow? Literally, it's Power Automate, workflows in Power Automate. So if I go back here, you can see that when I go back to my agent, I'm going to close this down. One of the cool thing is flows. So flows are nothing more than tools. They are tools available to an AI agent, correct? So you can see when I say generate a new flow, it tells me, okay, so here's a flow, and it wants me to tell it what do I use one of those existing flows, or do I create a new one? But here I'm creating a new one, right? Look, first thing is all flows need to use a connector. Can you see the scroll bar here? There's about 1,000 connectors, close to 1,000 connectors. I'm going to scroll down some more just to give you an idea what I have. I'm still scrolling here. Okay, so if you see my scroll bar, it's a very small scroll bar, and there's tons of connectors I can use. How cool is that? Correct? So that's pretty cool. So maybe I need to connect to an exchange online for business. I'm going to select rows, correct? And you can see now it wants me to sign in for me to use that connector. So a connector, an agent flow literally allows you to kick off a workflow at the back end. That's pretty cool thing to do, correct? I'll show you another example here. I'm going to delete away this one, correct? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my agent, continue without saving. You remember I created this agent earlier, and I'm going to go to topics, correct? So one of the things I can do in the topic, and you can see that once I've received all this information from the topic, I can go ahead and call a new agent flow. Can see? I can go ahead and call this agent flow, which will then be able to build something for me. Now, when an agent calls a flow, you can see the trigger is from an agent. So I have a workflow. This workflow is triggered by when an agent calls in, and then we do whatever we want in the middle. And then once we've done, we send the reply back to the agent. So this workflow is triggered by a call from an agent. And the agent, when the agent calls, this workflow will run. And in here, again, look at my how small this small scroll bar is. That's 1,000 over connectors. It goes end to end. Whatever you want to do, that's all here. So Kel, you most probably you can't tell me that, hey, my workflow is very complicated. I can't do it here. No way. That's over 1,100 connectors that are available to almost everything. Somebody's unmuted. All right, cool. Right, so you can
Sorry,
see I can talk to SAP if I want to. I can go to Oracle if I want to, correct? And if I want to interact with the WhatsApp connector, you can either do that directly with a third-party WhatsApp connector, or you can have that integrated by using an Azure functionality. Talk to it. If you want to talk to ServiceNow, that is your ServiceNow connector. This is your Dataverse, and that's my service bus functionalities, and of course, all the other products. And I can also go into things like Zendesk if I want to, and that's here. You name it, it's all here. If you go to SQL, that is all going to be here. SQL Server and Azure SQL Database is also here. If you want to go into Fabric, I don't think so. It's called Fabric at the moment. For that, you most probably have to do that from the Azure Foundry, but it's not going to be here. I could use a data lake, and that's going to be, let me see if I can see it. No, I most probably don't. I most probably have to use that data warehouse option with the SQL just now that you saw, correct? Okay, cool. There you go. That is usually what we talk about the functionality to a data warehouse that's based on Azure. How cool is that? Correct. So all that functionalities get to be done. So you'll get to see how we do that in this module where we start creating workflows, and the workflow is then called by your agent at a certain point where a conversation happened, and the trigger would be to say, wait, the conversation flow happens, and the call needs to go to a specific workflow, correct? The last part before we call it a day, I will let Zaf take over, is we're going to go into the last bit. And what we're going to do here is we're going to start using Dataverse as our data source, correct? And that's basically your knowledge that you have access to. And eventually, of course, once you're able to do that, you get to publish that into your teams as an application, just like any other team. The reason you could do that, because previously, before this whole AI thing was around, what you could do is as long as you create an application using Microsoft Team message systems, you could actually create an app and integrate that to Teams. So Copilot Studio, when it builds an agent, it uses that same functionalities, correct? So I'll show you here. So Microsoft changed that name. So they call these the M365 Toolkit, correct? So this is what it is. So if you look, it says Teams. You will see that it uses the word team. The previous name for this, I'm just going to go grab that name for you. Previous name of previous name of this. Correct? It's called their Teams Toolkit. Correct? Because the reason is because it was based on a application development platform that uses team message system services. So we then renamed that to a Teams Toolkit. Eventually, that became Microsoft Agents Toolkit. So you can use that toolkit to even work with Pro Code option if you want to, or of course you can do that with Copilot Studio. Correct? So if I fire up my Copilot, my Visual Studio Code, you get to see that 365 toolkit being used. Okay. So you can see that I will start the process by using my Copilot Studio, and then I will extend that by using the toolkit that I can use Visual Studio Code for it if I want to. Pretty cool stuff, right? That's pretty much what we do in the PL-7008. I will hand over back to Zaf to finish up the wrap up the whole thing.
Thank you, Gil. I think that was really short but really effective session. I think I learned quite a lot. And every day with this PL session 7008, I'm learning something new, and I'm sure most of you as well. So this is just scratching the surface. There's a lot more in depth that we could go into it. And as Gil mentioned, there's hands-on labs as well that's available for this. So if you're interested, we will be sending you out an email to join into our deep dive session where you will have access to labs and try this out as well. So, any questions, anyone? Y'all were very attentive, I guess. Any questions? Anyone? Can unmute yourself or put it on the chat. Can give you all a few more minutes. Manish, have you have completed the skill spot? Yeah, we will reach out to you. We have already sent the information to Microsoft, and they will reach out. It usually takes about a week to 7 to 10 working days, but we'll try and get it as soon as possible. Anyone? Any questions?